Good evening, everyone. It's so exciting to have everyone here together to celebrate our 75th annual awards dinner. Thank you for coming. I love that we want to keep talking. We want to keep having conversation. That's what MCA is all about. So thank you again for being here. So from the times of NCCJ and the Brotherhood Citation Dinner to the MCA and our annual awards dinner, people like you have supported our mission to eliminate bias, bigotry, and oppression through shared experiences and educational programming. So thank you for being here. Before I go any further, I'd just like to thank our generous table sponsors for sponsoring tables for us this evening. Joanne will say a little bit more about that when she comes up. But I must also thank two people who can most identify with me standing here right now. One of them is Emily Trantham, who's not here. The other is Cheryl Kimberling, and I realize that she's here. Cheryl, if you could please stand. Thank you, Cheryl, for the 18 years of service to the MCA and for being a mentor to me. Lastly, I'd like to remind you to get involved. There are lots of ways you can get involved. There's a QR code on the back of your program that will help fund our programs that we do. We have Camp Community coming up in June. We have table talks that are happening throughout the year. We also have our South Retreat that just happened in January. So there are lots of ways you can donate. You can participate. And so please get involved with that. Also, if you haven't had a chance to buy a raffle ticket, the Drover has a wonderful hotel over on the north side of Fort Worth. They have a $700 room. And so if you haven't bought a raffle ticket, please do that and support us that way. At this time, I would like to invite Imam Saeed Purcell to come forth for our invocation.
Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you all. And thank you so very much for being here tonight. The work that you do is more important now than possibly ever before. I want to make one disclaimer. I only found out I was giving the invocation just 2 minutes ago when I looked at the program. So you'll forgive me if this seems a little scattered. As I said, this work is very important right now, and oddly enough, today has been a very busy day of dealing with many things related to this, between the school voucher programs and what's going on with trying to exclude certain groups from equal access, to all of the other things we see going on with immigration enforcements and things like that, et cetera. But in the spirit of all of that and all of everything that you've been doing and the work that I've been blessed to participate with Adrian in the last few months, let us pray. May God guide our hearts to open our minds and our hearts to genuine dialogue amongst one another, regardless of our differences, regardless of the barriers between us. And may through that dialogue, may we build lasting relationships that transform our lives and the lives of others, and eventually the world. Amen.
Good evening. Hello, I know we're having a lot of fun this evening. I did not see Mr. Amphin to guarantee an end time, so if we keep talking, we'll be grossly beyond our scheduled end time. Where's Mr. Amphin? I don't see him. Yes. Oh, okay, Larry, here we go. Just like last year, we'll try to be done by about 8:45, Larry. Okay? That's coming for you right there. Just like we did last year. So, good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to give gratitude for all of the wonderful people in attendance this evening. 75 years with MCA is a very long time. And I was speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Alanis, and we were talking about how outside of this room, the people in this room are unique. But when we're here tonight together and collectively come every year together for the annual dinner, all different faiths, all different cultures, everyone coming together year after year for 75 years, it speaks volumes to what MCA does. And we appreciate it. We appreciate your support. We appreciate everything about every single person who took time out of their busy week to be here. So thank you for that. And please do keep eating, because we're going to just move right on through here on the program. I'd like to ask all the board members, past and present, to please stand. Current, past or present board members for MCA to please stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. We are a working board, and so it is because of our board members that, again, this evening is possible year after year. We'd also like to recognize 4 honorees from previous years who are also here. And when I read your name, if you would remain standing, and then we can applaud at the end. First this evening joining us is Mayor Kenneth Barr, Larry Anfin, Marvin Blum, and Estrus Tucker. Thank you for joining us again. We also would like to recognize and appreciate the attendance of our elected officials. I believe Mr. or Councilmember Michael Crane and Councilmember Elizabeth Beck are here. If we could please stand and be recognized. Are there any other elected officials? Okay, good. Our esteemed recipients this evening are the embodiment of MCA, and I'd like to ask Mr. Marvin Blum to come on up and introduce our first recipient.
Thank you, Joanne, and welcome. Good evening, everyone. I'm Marvin Blum, a longtime board member of Multicultural Alliance, and I'm honored to present tonight's Lifetime Achievement Award. Fernando Costa's whole life story is a microcosm of the MCA mission. Fernando Costa lives our mission, and it goes all the way back to his early childhood. Fernando was born in Havana, Cuba, and he was only 6 years old when the Castro regime took power and began persecuting citizens. Fernando and his parents and his brother escaped oppression, fleeing on one of the last commercial flights from Havana to Miami. Many thought that the Castro regime wouldn't last long, and they'd be returning to Cuba in just a few months. Well, that was not the case. So here's this little refugee boy who began navigating between cultures, the culture of his origin and the culture of his new home, which he describes as a culture shock. But it gave him the essence of what MCA does, embracing folks from different cultures, helping us understand each other, appreciate each other, and learn from each other. The MCA way was indoctrinated into Fernando as a little boy, and those insights stayed with him forever. Fernando then went on to Georgia Tech for both college and grad school, studying civil engineering and city planning. I asked him why he chose that field of study. And he said he's always been interested in cities as places that bring folks together from many different backgrounds and for different purposes. And he yearned to be part of helping create great communities. Again, MCA is in his soul. So then, after working 11 years in Macon, Georgia, Fernando was recruited by the city of Atlanta, where Mayor Andrew Young appointed him as city planning director. Fernando had the 6-year task of ramping up Atlanta to host the 1996 Olympics. Not only the physical improvements, but also creating a hospitable environment for the games. And during his time in Atlanta, Fernando worked with leaders of the civil rights movement, people like Andrew Young, John Lewis, Coretta Scott King. This was his circle, and they were working to advocate for nonviolent social change. Well, the story gets better because it's our good fortune that Fernando moved to Fort Worth in 1998 and embarked on a 26-year career where he served here as assistant city manager. Upon moving to Fort Worth, his earliest civic involvement was with us. He joined our board, which was then the NCCJ, the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and 2 of your daughters attended Camp Anytown, which of course now is Camp Community. And at my urging, Fernando followed my lead and served as an adult advisor at camp. And so like me and my daughter, Lizzie, Fernando and his daughters discovered the transformative experience of Camp Community, broadening our view of different cultures and seeing current events through a different lens. And here's one of my favorites. On talent night at camp, Fernando shared with me that he embarrassed his daughter when he performed a rap routine as MC Hammer. I think we all want a repeat performance tonight. Fernando is my kind of guy. Fernando says the most rewarding part, the highlight of his work with the city of Fort Worth was his work in human relations, playing an active role during some turbulent times in Fort Worth history to bring folks together across cultural lines to better understand each other. In particular, he cites his work with the Task Force on Race and Culture, and that work led to some lasting reforms in city government and in our community. So you see my point. Fernando's is the MCA mission. This man personifies MCA, and Fernando, thank you for generously always spreading the word in the world out there that the work we do is of enormous importance. And I want to share one last thing. When I called Fernando to ask him to accept the Lifetime Achievement Award, he declined. And he said to me, Marvin, he said, it goes against every grain in my body to be in the spotlight and receive recognition. I knew that. But I wore him down and convinced him that we need a role model today more than ever to inspire us to follow your lead. So Fernando, come on up. Yeah, Fernando, in honor of living the MCA mission, truly every day of your life, it's our privilege to present you tonight with the Multicultural Alliance Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, thank you, Marvin. And folks, thank you all kindly for your recognition. I'm delighted to accept this award, not of course because I've done anything to deserve it, but because it provides me with a platform upon which to promote the important work of the Multicultural Alliance. And I'm happy to share the platform tonight with Ann and Bob Jameson, whom you'll meet shortly. To my mind, they personify the mission of the Multicultural Alliance by everything that they do to make this community an even better place in which to live. But more about them in a moment. While I'm making acknowledgments, I'd like to thank my own wife, Ann, for her support over many long days and evenings and sometimes weekends devoted to the public's business. So thank you, Ann. And there are many, many other folks here tonight who deserve my expression of appreciation for your support over the years, but a blanket thank you will have to do for now. The word lifetime calls to mind the book of Psalms, which tells us that a full life consists of 80 years and 10. And by that measure, I suppose that I've lived more than a full life. I've had more than a full life of experiences from which to draw lessons about the principles that the Multicultural Alliance advances. And we have little time tonight, but if I may, I'd like to share with you perhaps 3 lessons that I've learned over the years as a result of that experience. First, welcome the immigrant. Marvin told you my story in a nutshell. When I was a boy, we moved to the United States as refugees from oppression, violence, and we found that the American people in general were hospitable and supportive and willing to provide us with everything from food and housing, first-rate public schools, health care, job training, employment, all the tools that we would need to become contributing citizens in our society. Today, many individuals and families from around the world want nothing more than what we wanted. And I think we should welcome them. A second lesson that I've learned through these experiences revolves around honoring everyone's civil rights. When we moved to this country in the early 1960s, the country was moving through a profound social revolution known as the Civil Rights Movement. Now I remember, and many of you remember, reading about Dr. Martin Luther King and his close associates like Andrew Young and Hosea Williams and John Lewis. And so God had some plan in mind when 20 years later, in the 1980s, Andrew Young was serving as mayor of Atlanta. And he asked me to go to work for him as director of the city's planning department, where Hosea Williams was serving on the city council. And John Lewis was representing Atlanta in the 5th District of Georgia in the U.S. Congress. And Coretta Scott King was carrying forward her late husband's legacy by running the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change. And I had the great privilege of working with her on many important projects. What a blessing. And I learned through that experience that honoring everyone's civil rights produces social and economic benefits, not just for those whose rights have been historically denied, but for everyone in our society. We all rise together if we honor everyone's civil rights. And third, this is the last point I'd like to make, is about celebrating all cultures. And Marvin told you the little story. What he didn't tell you was he approached me 20 years ago in the spring of 2006. And he said, "Fernando, I want you to serve as an adult advisor at Camp Anytown, now known as Camp Community." I said, "Marvin, that's a great idea. I'm going to think about it." He said, "Fernando, you don't understand. I'm not asking you to think about it. I'm asking you to do it." And I said, "Yes, sir." And I did. And it was a life-changing experience for me and for my two daughters, who also had the privilege of participating in Camp Anytown. They'll tell you today that it changed the direction of their life. That's how meaningful the work of the Multicultural Alliance is for all of us who are blessed to take part in it. And so my MC Hammer routine is a little rusty, and may be best to postpone it. But I promise you, we had a great time, and we'll never forget it. These three ideas that I'm sharing with you tonight about immigration, about civil rights, about cultural diversity, they're all as American as apple pie. They're all as universal as the world's great faith traditions. And yet today, here in Fort Worth and across our country, these ideas are being challenged by some who would misappropriate our symbols of God and country. In the face of that assault, the Multicultural Alliance stands as a shield against prejudice, ignorance, discrimination, division. It serves as a beacon for mutual understanding, for harmony, for unity as a society. And so tonight, let's recommit to the mission of the Multicultural Alliance. Let's recommit to building a community that welcomes the immigrant, that honors everyone's civil rights, that celebrates all cultures. Let's work together and make our country truly one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before I introduce the Jamesons, there are a couple other items that I need to remind everybody before they come up and receive their award. Everybody has a program on their table. Please take a minute. There is a QR code. And there's two things you can do with the QR code. One, you can buy a raffle ticket. And don't tell the Worthington, but it's a night stay at the Drover. They just gave us such a lovely gift. So raffle, QR code, or you can go back to the back and see Stephanie. And then secondly, we have commemorative centerpieces that we'd like to ask a donation if you'd like to take one home, minimum 75. There is no cap, so you can leave whatever you'd like for it. And then I'd also like to make sure everyone knows, and we didn't have it up earlier, but we'll pull it up now, our sponsors for the evening. Visit Fort Worth and Arnie Gashman and Paul Dorman are our gold sponsors. Silver sponsors, Kelly Hart, Paul Jung, and Jenny and Philip Lamsons. And then our bronze sponsors, Elaine and Larry Kloss, Amon G. Carter Foundation, the Hollis Trust, Lori Marvin Blum with the Blum Firm, BNSF, Allison and Rick Baumeister with CLA, Ann and Fernando Costa, Kim Cummings, Kelly Decker, Brian O. Poole, ITS, Integrated Transfer Services, Luther King Capital Management, Shiza Motion, Pastor Charles Johnson, Dr. Joe Mickles, and TCU. Thank you again to all of our sponsors for this evening and for doing so much for MCA year after year. With that, it is my pleasure to bring up Ann and Bob Jameson. And I'm not as cool as Marvin Blum. I don't speak like him. I'm a little bit, I can get animated, but not like that. But what to me stood out about why Ann and Bob would be the most perfect pair for this evening, I think is just one word, and that's love. And it's the love that you two have shared when you first met in '84, got married in '85, and came to this city. It's the love you had working here in this hotel and providing the MCA dinners here for all those years. We did not serve prime rib. And it's the love that you two continue to show MCA year after year with your time and your treasure. And it's the love you show the community of Fort Worth. It's the love that you show the entire region. Your work has directly impacted every single person in this room. They just don't know it. And for that, I'd like to say thank you. And I'd like to welcome you up here tonight to receive the award.
Well, first of all, Ann and I are truly grateful to the Multicultural Alliance for the recognition tonight, to the board of the Multicultural Alliance for thinking that we would be worthy of this kind of recognition and making tonight such a special occasion for the two of us. Now, Ann, very much like Fernando, feels totally like no recognition is needed, totally antithetical to who she is. But Joanne didn't call Ann. And apparently I have a higher need for affirmation. So I said, thank you very much. But this is an incredible recognition, and it is so because of the very long relationship that we have had with this organization. And it is fitting that it is in this room that that we have a moment to just reflect on why this organization and what our connection is. Because Ann and I moved here in 1985, and we began working at this hotel. And what we knew about the National Conference of Christians and Jews was that it was a very impressive dinner, and and just wonderful people from our community, like that are here tonight, came to talk about the work of this organization. However, we were not in the room, we were coordinating and making sure that prime rib got delivered to everybody at a table. And if you're feeding 400 or 500 people and you're trying to serve prime rib, and the end cut is well, and the center cut is rare, and everything else in between is something else, whatever you put in front of somebody is likely not their preference. And so then it was about, you can make a rare cut more done by dipping it in boiling, beef broth. But you can't make a well-done piece more rare. So it was, but that's, that was part of what we knew was just the service of the evening. But what happened over time was that Emily Trantham came to me and she said, do you think you could give me a discount on my event order, the price of my meal? And I said, no. But how about if I buy a table? And, I got money over here, I don't have money over here, so, but what that did is that brought us into the room. And that gave us an opportunity to not only hear the stories of people who have been recognized, people whose good works in this community really represented something of note and worth sharing, but we also heard keynotes that really talked about and supported the mission of the organization. And we also heard stories of people, adults and young people, different throughout the years, that had experienced or participated in some of the programming. At some point, she who must not be turned down, Jean Roach, invited me to serve on the NCCJ board. And that was an opportunity to even understand more fully and completely about the work of the organization, to see firsthand, the programs and the thinking behind them and how they touched people and how they affected outcomes. During the time I served as co-chair, our country was shaken to its core by the events of 9/11. Emotions were raw. Everybody in this room remembers. Fear and anger were real, especially towards our Muslim neighbors. And in that moment, this organization stepped forward. And it created space for Christians, Jews, and Muslims to come together to talk and to listen and to better understand one another. That kind of work matters, especially when it's hardest to do. I would say for Ann and I, though, this mission, this organization became much more personal when our son Bradley attended Camp Anytown, now Camp Community. Now, when you were arranging for your child, to attend, the idea for them to get full impact is that you would not tell them anything about what their experience was going to be like. Now, Bradley is a sophomore in high school, as is the case with many boys of that age, was remarkably uncurious. And so I told him, we've got this great opportunity for you. It'll be 4 days, it's in June. He said, sure. But then about a day and a half before it was time to go, he all of a sudden started getting a little more curious. And so he started asking, well, now, what am I going to, what is this about? And Ann and I just ignored the question and And off he went. Now, as it turns out, for Bradley, this came at a particularly difficult point in his life. As a sophomore, he'd made a choice for which there were real consequences. He was a student at All Saints Episcopal School and had been since kindergarten, and that was a real identifying factor for him, that he was a saint, but he was asked to leave the school. And, and there was a path back, but he had to really commit to what that path was. And then there was Camp Anytown in the midst of all of that. Over the course of those 4 days, in a safe and supportive environment, something changed, something helped him. And we saw him come home with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to doing better. And I can still see him. I still have a very vivid image of he and Jason Suter in our kitchen, fresh from camp. I mean, that afternoon, just off the bus back, they were back home, so excited, so energized, and talking about what they experienced. It was a grounding experience for him. And like I said, when how you identify yourself is threatened or shaken, to be able to be in an environment where you are able to talk about who you are. And Marvin Blum, who was there at that camp, can tell you that he shared fully what he'd been through. And he was in a place of no judgment. And he was able to come home just, with a stronger sense of how do you move forward from where he's at. 2 years later, we lost our boy. In the midst of that loss, people who knew about his experience at Anytown, who were part of this organization at some form or another, made several donations in his memory. And those gifts created scholarships so that other young people could have that same opportunity. Inspired by their generosity and by Bradley, we've continued to support that fund. That's what this work does. It reaches people, it changes lives, sometimes in ways you can measure, and sometimes in ways that you carry with you forever. As Fernando said, there are so many things going on in the world right now, and so many of them feel so wrong. It would be easy to feel discouraged. But the truth is, people have always been tribal. That's not new. What matters is what we choose to do about it. And it's organizations like the Multicultural Alliance that remind us understanding doesn't happen by accident. It takes intention, it takes effort, and it takes all of us being willing to see a little more of ourselves in one another. Ann and I deeply believe in that work, and we always have, and we always will. And if there's one thing we hope that you take away tonight, it's this. The work you support here tonight truly, truly matters. It matters more than ever, and it makes a difference one person at a time. We are incredibly honored to be, it's amazing to me to think that we are one more picture on that screen that reflected back on so many wonderful people that have given and participated in this community. We're so honored to stand among you all tonight. Thank you very much.
If we can give Fernando and Bob and Ann Jameson another hand. Our final presenters for the night are very near and dear to me. As the new president of the Multicultural Alliance, I was fortunate enough to witness their brilliance up close and personal. Fez, as a delegate at Camp Community, and Anushe as a Camp Community counselor. I got to watch her lead sessions on the Myers-Briggs, as well as internal bias. These are great young people, and at this time, I would like to ask them to come to the stage, Anushe and Fez Danani.
Thank you, Miss Adrian. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anushe, and I am so grateful to be speaking with you all today about Camp Community. I attended as a camper in the summer of 2022, and I've returned the past 2 years as a counselor, so hopefully my dedication speaks for the quality of the program. Now, I will admit I was a little skeptical at first, especially when my mom dropped me off in the middle of a parking lot and said to get in the big black van. But once I was sure I wasn't being kidnapped, I started to get the vibe. Camp Community isn't your average summer camp. For starters, we have AC and Wi-Fi, which is monumental. But in all seriousness, the mission of Camp Community is to create a space where teenagers of all backgrounds and circumstances can share a part of themselves with the world and with each other, and truly learn and grow as socially aware members of their community. At camp, we talk about things like discrimination, being a bystander and an upstander, love languages, identity, and so much more. And while I've made amazing friendships and so many fun memories as a camper, what really stayed with me were the lessons. Learning how to open your heart and your mind to the world around you is a rare thing, and it's much easier said than done. But what Camp Community does so well that makes growth visible, whether it's across the entire group or even within one person. And I think a big part of why I was able to fully embrace that experience starts at home. My mom has always encouraged us to be curious, to be open-minded, to care about where other people are from, and being at camp felt like an extension of those values. So to all the parents in the room, programs like this are incredible, but the foundation really begins with you. The conversations you have at home, the examples you set, and the values you model become the starting point for everything we're able to grow into in spaces like Camp Community. We're living in a constantly changing political and cultural landscape, which is why it's so important to help young people learn how to navigate it with kindness and an open mind. I was honored to be asked back as a counselor because it gave me the chance to pay forward everything I received. Plus, it meant I got to be a counselor when my brother attended, and as it turns out, it's way more fun to boss him around in public.
Hi everyone, I'm Fez, a professional victim of my older sister, and also a big Camp Community fan. I went to camp this past summer and I had an awesome time. I'm not really a big public speaker, a big crowd person, and Camp Community really helped me come out of my shell more. And honestly, I don't think I would have ever gone if it wasn't for our mom encouraging me to try something new. That kind of support made a big difference, and it gave me the push I needed to step outside of my comfort zone. It was great being able to connect with people my age, not just about things like music and TV, but also about more serious topics. We learned about different cultures and took part in activities that led to some really interesting debates and conversations. I'm really grateful I got to attend, and I'm hoping I can come back and work there one day. Also, they have really good food.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we hope that we've inspired you to get involved because it really is a wonderful program. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to get them right now. Hold on one second. Okay, so if you haven't finished getting your raffle tickets, I see there's some people back there making their last purchases. We need that bowl, please, so we can wrap up this evening. And I want to say thank you very much. My boys also attended Camp Community, and these two made such an impression. My favorite thing, and I did not give it to Adrian, was a picture of my son Lance and Fez holding each other. Was that an exercise?
No, just they chose to.
So, I mean, when they share and when everybody hears about it, the community that comes together, it truly is so wonderful to see all the different cultures come together for that time period and really share. So, still waiting on the bowl. Thank you again very much. They are going to do this drawing for us and call out the winner, and here comes Miss Adrian. So, you want to hold it? You want to draw it? Who wants to?
I take that for.
Okay. Give it a good spin.
All right.
And pick one out.
Go for it. The winner is. Okay. You want to read it, Fez?
The winner is Adrian Collins.
The cards have spoken. That's crazy.
Hold on. Okay, hold on.
So it's rigged, right? I would honestly like someone to stand up, and I'd like to present this with them. Dr. Shiza Mosen, could you please stand? I want to give this award to her. She's a dedicated board member, and she's the parent of these two wonderful speakers. So I will give you this award, this to the Drover Hotel. Thank you for all you do.
That's just the kind of love we have for each other on the table and on the board. Thank you, Dr. Shiza. Thank you, Adrian. I just wanted to point out real quick, your odds of winning tonight were really high. I'm not an actuary, but I mean, like, you know, you could have won that one. So thank you, Adrian. I'd also like to thank Adrian for compiling all the pictures from as many pictures as we could find over summer. We were able to get all the pictures of every camp in time order, and so we thank you for that. I'd like to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been a tremendous year, and next year when Kelly Decker's up here, she's going to get to wrap it up. And she'll be, I don't know if she'll be the second or third chair that actually attended Camp Anytown, and then to serve as chair. But we're looking forward to her leadership next year. And I want to say one more time, thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to all of our board members. Thank you for Ann and Bob Jameson. Thank you for Fernando Costa. Thank you, everyone, for spending your evening with us in the MCA. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate everything you do for this organization. Thank you.